Hi, it's Debbie Samuels. Welcome to Daily Hope. Today we're going to be taking a look at 2 Samuel chapter 22. This whole chapter is a beautiful legacy that David is singing to God as he was remembering all that God has done for him in delivering him. There's so much in here, as a matter of fact, that it's repeated again in Psalm 18. So we're going to be taking a look at the first 4 verses. And chapter 1 starts off with, David sang to the Lord the words of this song when the Lord delivered him from the hand of his enemies and from the hand of Saul. So here David was delivered from his enemies and he wrote this song. So my question was, who are David's enemies? Well, we take a look back to see where God has delivered him from. God delivered David from Goliath. He delivered David from backsliding. He delivered him from Israel's enemies. He delivered him from his son Absalom. And he also delivered him from his own sinful passions. So I asked the question, Lord, who are my enemies? And I had to go and take a look because the first thing that came to my mind is I began to answer it with different people in my life that I felt were my enemies. But when you took a look at Ephesians, it says our struggle is not flesh and blood, but against the rulers, the authorities, the powers of this dark world, and against spiritual forces of evil in the spiritual realm. And I began to see that our enemies are the things that want to keep us from that right relationship with God. So Ephesians 2 begins to spell it out for us. And it says, as for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sin. There's death when we have transgressions and sin in our life, which keeps us from a loving relationship with the Father. And it says comes from when we follow the ways of the world. And it ends up in verse 3 that we were gratifying the cravings of our flesh. So as we begin to see, as we live for self, following the ways of the world, gratifying the things of the flesh, this is where we are separated from God, and these are the enemies that we deal with now. So our enemy, what is that area that you fall prey to constantly and easily? Well, as believers, we may think, well, we have a relationship with God, so we don't have this issue anymore. But the problem is, without the time of spending in confession, those sins can easily begin to come back into our thoughts, our actions, and our attitude. I took a walk yesterday and I did a hike up a hill, and I decided as I was hiking that every step I take, I was going to spend time in confession. And at the beginning it was really hard, not because I'm so good, but because I've been out of practice of confession. I first confessed that I struggled with confession, but then God began to remind me of all the areas in my life that I needed to confess. My judgment of others, my lack of faith in God, my lack of my prayer life, the times where I disobeyed Him in His Word. The more I confessed, the more I had to confess. And then I found out that that mountain wasn't tall enough for all my confession. You see, Jesus came to bring us life, and He gave us the power to defeat sin. And this comes through our practice of confession to Him. When I got to the top of that mountain, I had to climb over the last rock. And when I got up there, some previous hiker had put up a cross right there in front of me. And it was such a beautiful, sweet reminder that my sin, the enemy of sin in my life has been defeated. And we can go to the foot of the cross to be able to bring it right with God. After this happened to me, I took a look at the next few verses. And Here's what David said. He said, "The Lord is my rock. He is my fortress. He's my deliverer. My God is my rock in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation. He is my stronghold, my refuge, my Savior. From violent people you save me. I called to the Lord, who is worthy to be praised, and have been saved from my enemies." If you want to know how to approach God, call to Him. He is your rock. Jesus has defeated your enemies. May you spend some time this week in confession and going back to the foot of the cross. God bless you.